right out the gate, we're going to do something a little bit different. We got plenty of local stuff to get to, I promise. But 877-881-1053. Who is your favorite ESPN personality of all time? We will also be doing multiple Rangers ticket giveaways today, and we've got Rangers manager Chris Woodward at 12:20 and Marty Turco at 1:20. But Kenny Mayne is leaving ESPN after 27 years, and then we also hear that Chris Berman signed a multi-year extension, and I wondered about the relevancy of Chris Berman.
Chris Berman on the moon.
To today's kids. But Corey, I want, if you can start with the story of essentially how Kenny Mayne got his job at ESPN, and let's get some feedback from the people. Who is your all-time favorite ESPN personality?
Evidently, Kenny Mayne sent this letter to John Walsh whenever he applied for the job. March 4th, 1994. He sent it and said, "Dear John, please mark the appropriate box and return, as I am in the process of planning my future." And then box 1 was, "It just hit us. We love your work. Contract is on the way. Stand by the mailbox." Mail. Box number 2 said, "Keep up the field producing. We'll call you when we need you." And box number 3 said, "We'll consider hiring you about the time ESPN 5 hits the air." Which, did it?
No.
Okay,
no.
but they do
we
have
went
the
straight
O
from
show.
2 to 8.
So that's Kenny Mayne sending, that's his request letter for, "I would like a contract to work as a on-air personality for you guys."
I mean, it clearly worked, and now he's leaving. He said salary cap casualty. Maybe they needed all of that money for Chris Berman for some reason. But yeah, he is out. Who is y'all's favorite ESPN personality? Because I think I might say Dan Patrick, because for a while it was Patrick and Oberman, but then when I found out that, Oberman became a scorched earth political activist who has no time to listen to any sort of reasoned debate, I was like, well, probably not him anymore. So I guess Dan Patrick, though I did like me some Craig Kilborn too back in the day.
Okay, I don't remember Craig Kilborn. Like, I very, very lightly remember him being there.
It was interesting. People forget that Craig Kilborn was at ESPN. They forget that he was the original host of The Daily Show before Jon Stewart. He's a very forgettable figure for a lot of these things that really took off, I feel like. So I guess you know what? I'll vote for him because nobody remembers that he did anything.
Now, Mike, one of the things I think that a lot of people are going to go with is everything that was nostalgic. And I think, like, right now, you have, I think, Laura Rutledge and Maria Taylor are phenomenal. Like, I really think that they're going to grow into those roles at some point.
Yeah.
I think they do really, really good work, and I think that people are going to kind of miss out on that. But Dan Patrick,
what's funny is I never watched, so I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, and that's they have come from, like the SEC. They've worked their way up as like sideline reporters, and now Rutledge is hosting NFL Live,
yeah.
And then Maria Taylor, I saw. Did you see her work with Jalen Rose over the weekend when Jalen Rose broke down?
She hosts NBA Countdown. She's also on College Game Day. She does all sorts of things. She is a jack of all trades and a master of quite a few of them, in fact.
Absolutely. I think they're elite when it comes to what's next with that wave. But yeah, it's Dan Patrick for me for sure. That was the reason I got into radio. He was like the first radio show.
Take that, Galloway.
He was the first radio show I listened to, and then Galloway was on next. So I would listen to Dan Patrick, and then I would follow up with Galloway all day. But yeah, he was.
Who would have ever thought when Galloway came up with the phrase "KP can't play," he knew exactly who we were trading for years later and what his career would be like in Dallas.
From the 972, I stopped liking Craig Kilborn after seeing Old School. That's really interesting because of a character he played, or did you just think that's probably what he's like in real life?
That's the way I felt about it.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you just see a movie character that you're like, that's that person. They played it too well.
Now, thus far, and I want to get to y'all's take on this, thus far, there's two people whose names are coming up a lot. Stuart Scott and then Stephen A. Smith, though those are not all positive. The Stuart Scott ones are all, I want to vote for Stuart Scott.
Sure.
The Stephen A. Smith ones are, some are voting for him, and then others from the 903. I can just tell you who it's not. That's Stephen A. Hole Smith. So some people are just voting against Some people are voting for. Some people are voting for Scott Van Pelt. But it would appear,
Scott Van Pelt's good.
and Dan
He's really
Lebitard.
good.
Dan Lebitard, absolutely.
It would appear early on that Stuart Scott is the overwhelming leader thus far. Mike, who is it for you? And it's got to be an older person, I'm guessing, because like you said, you don't watch ESPN a lot.
Right.
now.
I don't know, like over the last 5 years. I mean, I have it on every once in a while, but so rare that I don't know who does anything on SportsCenter anymore. I guess I do know Scott Van Pelt after Maverick games are over on ESPN or playoff games are done on ESPN. He comes on with that cool-looking logo and starts talking about sports. So I'll watch him a little bit still. I have two kind of people that probably people aren't bringing up because I'm not talking about maybe SportsCenter hosts. I think Chris Fowler is tremendous with college football.
Yeah.
I think he's amazing getting you ready and then calling a college football game. And then I really like Tim Kirchin. I think he is great at covering baseball. So I have two people that probably nobody's bringing up. I know they're not the most popular. I know they weren't the ones hosting SportsCenter when SportsCenter was the most popular, like Stuart Scott and like other people like that. But I think Chris Fowler and Tim Kirchin are two tremendous talents.
And I'm not saying that it's not necessary. It hasn't been this way for a while. But, man, I remember when Tim Kirchin was the person who told me about baseball. You know, like if you learn something about baseball or a story broke, for the longest time it was like, Tim Kirchin for baseball, or it was Chris Mortensen and John Clayton for football. Like the way Rappaport and stuff and Schefter are now, like those were my people. And I think it's just a product of like I've moved away from ESPN because there's so much more specialized content out there. But there was a time when like everything I was learning on the breaking news front was from those people. So I get that for sure. I
can remember, watching SportsCenter, like getting ready for junior high or high school in the late 80s to mid 90s. And the one thing that would always tick me off is when they showed hockey highlights.
Even then.
Yeah, even then I was like, come on, man. Basketball, baseball, football, what are we doing?
It's coming back around. Doesn't ESPN renewed their relationship with hockey, right? So we're going to get more hockey highlights than you can handle, man.
This is our content. One of the things about Dan Patrick that I always loved from his show, his radio show, was he would say that people would come up to him and go, hey, do booyah. And he would be like, what? And they would say, do booyah. And they're like, you're the booyah guy. And he's like, no, I'm not. That's Stuart Scott, and you need to ask Stuart to do that because that's his thing.
Yeah,
and I guess that's one of the reasons that these names keep coming up is because, like you said, Kevin, that's where we learned it. That's like I learned hockey from Ralph and Razor. Like that's how I learned hockey. With these guys, I learned a lot about the sports. But on top of that, they made them personalities. ESPN did a really good job. They've taken that away. Like, that's where they've failed the most is by saying your personality doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
What matters more is our brand, and they've taken a lot of the interest in me wanting to know these characters because, A, the way Stuart and Dan and those guys wrote the show, they wrote it with their personalities, and they wrote it with swaggy language and new stuff, new lingo, and that was interesting. And then on top of that, they made those freaking hilarious commercials all the time.
Yeah.
Like those commercials.
SportsCenter commercials.
Yeah, man, those things were a blast. And so I think that's one of the things that we've lost along the way.
Reggie, who is it for you?
I saw an interesting one. Holly Rowe was a great name that was put up there because, I mean, she does all sorts of sports, women's, men's, and she handles all those interviews with such care. She has so much insight and information, more than sometimes the play-by-play and color announcers, and you go, how much preparation does she do? But absolutely, for me personally, he just left the network. Dan Lebitard is huge for me because I mean he's done radio, he's done journalism, he has that journalistic integrity that sometimes nowadays can be a little tough to find, and very moral, very principled, loves cutting up and just being irreverent, but when the time comes, handles things with a lot of dignity, with a lot of insight, with a lot of just smarts. And I've always loved that about Dan Lebitard, being able to balance being just absolutely nonsensical and then also treating things with a lot of care and importance.
From the 214, pardon the interruption, and then I saw this again from the 817, Kornheiser and Wilbon. I'm not saying they started the kind of sports debate program. I'm not here to tell you that, but
they kind of did on TV.
That's what I remember. And then they ran the inferior around the horn and whatnot. But pardon the interruption, I did think was a big step for better or worse, because some people will argue like the necessary argumentative nature of the sports talk show is not a step forward. But I thought it was a huge step forward for visibility. Like, man, there was a time when Kornheiser and Wilbon became like two of the biggest people in sports media, if not the two biggest, because of the popularity of that show.
Somebody just texted in from the 214, Hannah Storm. Do you remember being at the Super Bowl with Sean Sharif and how he was like, I don't know what I'm going to do if I get a chance to talk to Hannah Storm?
Like, he was ready to throw his life away and go wherever Hannah wanted him to go.
Wonder if that was because for us, maybe Inside the NBA with Ahmad Rashad. Wasn't she the co-host or supporting cast there?
Wait, was it Hannah Storm?
Summer Sanders.
Summer Sanders, I think.
Summer Sanders, yeah, she did that for a while. But she was involved with it for a bit, too. That's how she cut her teeth and then got over to ESPN at some point. Bob Lee, I think, is also a name that a lot of people forget.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great name.
Like, that was magazine-style reporting, that they did on there, because it wasn't just hey, here's a quick highlight, and let's move on. It was, here is a story about somebody.
Oh, and then, okay, and if that's the case, then what about Dick Schaap? He would host what was the 4-person round table?
Sports
Reporters. Yes.
And the funny thing is, like, I'm more familiar with the son, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And the things that he's done in the similar vein.
And he is good as well, but his dad was there kind of leading the way. And that was I think that might have been my first experience with the long form sports reporting, because they would have like the 4-person. It was, it was like that PBS show, except they were talking about sports.
Reading Rainbow?
No, godly. What was the 4-person?
Are you talking about Meet the Press? Because that's not PBS.
No. It was John something or other. He would be like, next topic.
Was this in the all-black room with the table?
I can't. Yeah,
Charlie Rose.
The AFL-CIO says that they're going to sanction. Like, it was about politics. And somebody on the fan text is going to know the answer to this. But the Sports Reporters was like a version of that I cared about as a kid, because as a kid, I wasn't like super into the budget deficit or whatever. So I did love the Sports Reporters. And I really am going to be sad if nobody on the fan text comes through with the answer.
We'll say this, and I don't know if anybody agrees or disagrees. There was a period when I liked Mike Golick. Did not care for Mike Greenberg.
Oh.
Then there was another period where it switched, and I was like, I kind of like this guy a little more. He's more of a fan than he is anything else. And then after that, it was just like, I don't like him at all. It just kind of became okay, I get it. And I was like, but I didn't like him as a SportsCenter host, though. When Mike Greenberg was a SportsCenter guy, when he was doing highlights, I was like, what is going on? Why does he look like that? And it freaked me out.
Oh, what? Now,
I don't know.
We got this from the 972. No Chris Berman fans. And the thing about Chris Berman is there was a time when absolutely he was the McLaughlin Group. Thank you very much.
One person
from the 469 with John McLaughlin. Yes. Thank you very much for knowing the answer to that. I really do appreciate that.
Berman and Tom Jackson, for me, were must-watch as a kid. When the Cowboys were good at football, it was a long time ago. But when the Cowboys were good at football, and then right before that Sunday night game when the 6 p.m. hit, I think they'd come on from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. and
the NFL primetime and whatnot.
Yeah, that was him and Tom Jackson were awesome.
And I don't want to discount Chris Berman at all, because there was a good 10 years where I thought he was the guy. The problem that I think he runs into for a certain extent now is that he's just stayed around and hasn't really like totally updated his bit. And now he feels like, to me, old and out of touch. And so, like, I don't love Chris Berman now. That's why I was surprised when he got the contract extension. But there was absolutely a time where he was
the Raiders.
Yes, the Natron means business. Like, there was absolutely a time when I thought, was the leading guy at ESPN. Love all of the feedback there. Especially love y'all that came in about the McLaughlin Group. Very much appreciate that.